Easy there, Sophia. My chest still aches from last night. The message illuminated the screen of my phone, a sudden beacon in the pitch-black conference room. My presentation drone momentarily forgotten. I flipped the phone over discreetly, my thumb hovering over the notification. Clicking it open revealed the image. A snapshot of pale, well-defined pectoral muscles, marred by faint, angry red scratches, evidence of a passionate, perhaps overly zealous encounter. A faint smirk played on my lips as I silently switched the phone off, tucking it away. He certainly knew how to get my attention. This season's key product for the LK brand is their new line of men's underwear. The final campaign shots came in yesterday. The intern presenting faltered, glancing nervously towards me. Only after receiving my subtle nod did she dare to continue cycling through the images projected onto the large screen. My name is Sophia Reyes, Deputy Editor-in-Chief at Verve, one of the country's leading fashion magazines. I'd clawed my way here with sharp instincts and relentless work, yet the whispers followed me like cheap perfume through the sleek office corridors. The venomous little gossips always boiled it down to the same tired trope, sleeping her way up, trading favors for resources. The truth? I hadn't done anything of the sort, not really. And frankly, my standards for male aesthetics were punishingly high. The sender of the photo was Leo Vance, my current indulgence. A little milk dog, as the term went. Young, eager, devastatingly handsome. I'd spotted him months ago at a university fashion event, looking for part-time work to supplement his studies. I'd subsequently, and quite generously, offered him a unique position. Location: my apartment. Client: me. Uniform: optional. Apparently, the young buck and the seasoned executive. A classic power dynamic, and admittedly, one I found rather satisfying. The underwear he implicitly showcased in the photo? My gift for his 20th birthday. This model won't work. I cut the intern off, my professional voice crisp and cool, betraying none of the thoughts swirling beneath. His look is too soft, almost feminine. LK targets the straight male demographic, not the niche gay market. Next case, please. Honestly, Leo's casual snapshot had more raw appeal, more fire, than this professionally styled shoot. It certainly did a better job of making my pulse quicken. Later that evening, I returned home as promised. It was his birthday after all. Sophia, I've been waiting ages for you. Leo intercepted me the moment I stepped through the door. Why aren't you dressed? The sight of his bare, sculpted chest, the very one from the picture, sent a jolt of unwelcome adrenaline straight through me. Those scratches were starker in person. Blame yourself, he pouted playfully, his eyes dancing. Every time I put on a shirt, it rubs the scratches. It hurts. He dropped into a crouch, his tall frame folding easily, and began unbuckling my stilettos. His hair, soft and tousled, brushed against my calf, sending an illicit shiver up my spine. Sophia, could you put some antiseptic on it for me? He presented me with a bottle of iodine and cotton swabs, his expression a mixture of boyish charm and subtle manipulation. You did this, you know. You have to take responsibility. I dipped a swab, the sharp scent of iodine filling the air. Gently, I dabbed at the raised muscle, tracing the lines I'd inflicted. Hza. His soft groan as the antiseptic stung was involuntary, yet deeply provocative. His voice, husky and low, vibrated near my hand, tempting me to press just a little harder. I indulged the impulse. You're doing that on purpose, Sophia, he accused, though his eyes held more amusement than pain. He captured my wrist, his grip surprisingly strong. And now, you have to make it up to me. With a swift, practiced move, he pushed me back onto the plush sofa. I offered token resistance. In the ensuing tangle of limbs, the lines of who was truly compensating whom blurred deliciously. The next morning, unfamiliar sounds from the kitchen roused me. Shrugging on a silk robe, I padded out of the bedroom. Sophia, you're up. Go brush your teeth. Breakfast is almost ready. Leo stood at the stove, meticulously flipping pancakes, the air thick with the comforting aroma of coffee and maple syrup. Ah! A yawn escaped me, deep and unrestrained. Youth, I thought wryly, watching him move with an energy that felt galaxies away from my own. Slight post-coital exhaustion. He could go half the night and still bounce up to cook, while I felt like I needed intravenous caffeine. Don't you have classes? Shouldn't you be heading out? Lately, he'd taken to staying over more often than not, a deviation from our initial unspoken terms. All electives this morning. Ditched them. he replied with a carefree grin, turning to plate the pancakes. Utterly guiltless. It was a stark contrast to my own university grind, endless library sessions, groveling for professors' favors, battling tooth and nail for scholarships and grad school recommendations. I'd nearly worked myself into the ground. Leo, however, he seemed utterly untouched by such pressures, content to drift through his youth on a cloud of easy charm. Sophia, a lot of stuff in the fridge is expired. Why didn't you throw it out? He called over his shoulder, already rummaging. And hey, when's your next day off? There's a new organic market that just opened. I have discount coupons. He darted around my kitchen like a cheerful squirrel, radiating an absence of life stress that felt almost alien. Not sure. We'll see, I replied non-committally. Leo and I were planets orbiting different suns. He was at best a high-end diversion. Commitments, genuine tenderness, those were complications I couldn't afford and wasn't inclined to offer. He placed a steaming mug in front of me. I wrinkled my nose instinctively. I don't drink this. Mornings are for iced lemon water? Not today, he interrupted gently but firmly, his hand guiding mine back to the warm ceramic. The heat seeped into my chilled fingers. Not for the next week, actually. Your period's due. In a day or two, right? You need to stay warm. He winked. And lay off the stilettos for a few days. You're already 5'9". Towering over those short, pudgy executives isn't doing you any favors. He delivered this with such matter-of-fact confidence, it was almost unnerving. How do you know what my bosses look like? I asked, narrowing my eyes slightly. Leo possessed fox-like eyes that crinkled with mischievous intelligence when he smiled. Educated guess. If they were tall, dark, and handsome, would I even stand a chance? I shook my head, a reluctant smile touching my lips. Breakfast, little thoughtful gestures, remembering my cycle, effective on naive girls perhaps. Not on a veteran like me. Still, his attentiveness sparked a flicker of curiosity, quickly tamped down. I had tried to discreetly vet him early on, wanting to avoid potential drama, but the information he'd volunteered was frustratingly sparse. An only child, family lived out of state, currently a freshman at the large comprehensive university downtown. Speaking of family, I probed casually, did they get in touch yesterday? For your birthday? He shrugged, taking a large bite of toast. Why would they? As long as the money transfer comes through, we're good. He was refreshingly direct about money, never playing coy or pretending discomfort. I appreciated that. He was, I'd quickly deduced, a greedy little opportunist at heart, which suited me just fine. If he'd been burdened by principles or sentimentality, our arrangement would never have worked. Our meeting had been pure serendipity, or perhaps calculated opportunism on his part. Looking back, Verve was co-hosting a fashion showcase featuring student designs at his university. A flustered intern had miscalculated the number of male models needed, leaving me scrambling backstage. Excuse me, miss? A young male voice sounded behind me. My friend designed these outfits. I've modeled them for him before. Maybe I could fill in. I turned distractedly, seeing only a young man wrestling with a large garment box. Sorry, kid. I dismissed him without really looking. This isn't your typical campus gig. You're not right for it. Miss, you haven't even seen me try, he protested, his voice rising with an indignant edge that sounded slightly suggestive. How can you know if I can perform or not? His earnest plea hung in the air, thick with unintended innuendo. A ripple of stifled laughter went through the nearby interns. It wasn't until then that I turned properly and truly looked at him. And just like that, my carefully constructed composure shattered. That face, it was arresting. Young, yes, but with a bone structure and intensity that promised devastating maturity. What's your name? My voice was steadier than I felt. Leo Vance. Are you actually in charge here? As if possessed, my hand shot out, clamping onto his arm. Get changed, I commanded, pulling him towards the dressing area. I watched the entire show, unusually focused. Professionally speaking, Leo's walk was passable, amateurish even. But I knew with unsettling certainty that the moment he stepped onto that runway, illuminated by the spotlights, he wasn't just walking on a platform. He was stomping all over my carefully monitored EKG. Maybe it was time to let go of the ghosts, a treacherous thought whispered. After the show, I deliberately held back his payment voucher. When he approached my car later, looking young and slightly uncertain under the parking lot lights, My resolve hardened into a decision. Miss Reyes? He began, then shifted awkwardly. Look, this is embarrassing. But I seem to have lost my wallet. My ID and everything. I can't check into a hotel. A pause, then with a sudden knowing glint in his eye. I guess we'll have to go to your place. Well, I thought, a wry smile touching my lips. Not such an innocent puppy after all. That night was the beginning of an addiction. Later, in the deep quiet of the night, I propped myself on an elbow, studying Leo's sleeping face. The immediate heat of our bodies had cooled, but a different kind of warmth lingered, a nascent fondness I refused to name. My index finger traced the sharp line of his brow bone, drifted down the straight bridge of his nose. Stop messing around, he mumbled, shifting slightly, his hand instinctively reaching for mine even in sleep. The unconscious intimacy sent a pang through me, hitting a secret, vulnerable spot I kept fiercely guarded. I buried my face in the curve of his neck, inhaling the living, breathing scent of him, warm skin, clean soap, youth. He felt like a gift, a cosmic compensation for a past I desperately wanted to forget. In the days that followed, contact became regular. I tried, initially, to establish clear financial boundaries, sending him money transfers for his time. He refused them point blank. Sophia, I'm a student, not an escort, he protested, sounding genuinely offended, returning every transfer, ignoring every cash-filled envelope I tried to slip him. Honestly, I'd seen this tactic before. Play the feelings card, build the emotional connection. Then when the time was right, hit you with the big ask: rent, tuition, a car. Fine. If he wanted to play a longer game, I could play along. It cost me nothing and the benefits were undeniable. Then let me move in, he suggested one evening, his eyes wide and earnest. You can keep an eye on me, make sure I eat properly. You're a student. Don't you belong in a dorm? I countered, maintaining distance. Dorms are full of loud, smelly guys. Not nearly as nice as being near my sophisticated Sophia, he wheedled, turning on the charm. Lately he'd become increasingly clingy, peppering his requests with endearments and playful touches. No, I said firmly. Your family wouldn't approve of you living off campus, shacking up with someone. Oh, don't worry about them. He waved a dismissive hand, his expression utterly sincere. They honestly don't care what I do. Struck me as odd. A freshman alone in a big city. Surely his parents would be more involved? Yet, day or night, I never heard him take calls that sounded remotely familial. I had, however, overheard him rattling off flawless, unaccented English on voice messages a few times, discussing complex topics I couldn't quite grasp. Given my line of work, fluency in multiple languages was essential, a skill I'd invested heavily in. My own salary, calculated annually, was substantial, but I knew staying ahead meant constant self-improvement. A significant chunk went towards courses, especially languages. Listening. Covertly, I was certain Leo's English proficiency surpassed my own hard-won fluency. I recalled him mentioning his major once. Something obscure, definitely not language-related or a typical high-earning field. I pushed the inconsistencies aside with a mental shrug. As long as he behaved, as long as the arrangement remained beneficial, I could keep him around until the inevitable settlement day. I assumed this comfortable, controlled dynamic would continue indefinitely. Then Leo threw a wrench into the works, a rather large, inconvenient wrench. What? You got into a fight? And the university suspended you? I found him slumped on the communal staircase outside my apartment door when I got home from work, perched miserably on a suitcase. So yeah, he mumbled, recounting a convoluted tale of defending someone's honor, which somehow escalated. I can't go back to the dorm for now. Please, Sophia, take pity on me, just for a little while. He looked up at me, his expressive eyes wide and pleading, the very picture of a large, handsome, momentarily homeless puppy. Damn it. I'd forgotten, beneath the layers of practiced charm and surprising worldliness, that he was still fundamentally a kid. Boys this age were terrified of parental repercussions. If he went home now, admitting to a fight and suspension, his relationship with his family already seemed distant. This could lead to serious trouble, maybe even the stereotypical good hiding. My resolve crumbled under the weight of his calculated vulnerability. All right, get inside first, I sighed, unlocking the door. I hadn't intended it to be a permanent arrangement, but Leo, displaying an astonishing level of self-assurance, unpacked and integrated his belongings with alarming speed. Toothbrush in the holder, clothes in a spare drawer, laptop set up on the corner desk. He made himself at home as if he'd been invited for a long-term stay. "Sophia, I promise I'll earn my keep," he declared earnestly, following me around like an eager shadow. "I'll cook, I'll clean, I'll be up before you, asleep after you. I'll take such good care of you, you'll be pampered, plumped up." Is this a repayment plan or a plot to make me unfit for my couture wardrobe? I deadpanned, though a reluctant smile tugged at my lips. "Seriously though, were you hurt?" I grabbed his arm, turning him towards the light to inspect him properly. Thankfully, no visible marks beyond a slightly bruised ego. "Nah." He puffed out his chest slightly. "Those guys were all talk, no technique. Barely landed a punch." I smiled faintly, not bothering to challenge his bravado. Was it just me, or did Leo seem less naive, less genuinely suspended student than he let on? Never mind. This cohabitation, forced or not, would be an opportunity. A chance to observe him more closely, understand the layers beneath the charming surface. Being intimate with someone, even casually, required a certain level of awareness. No more being blindsided. No more devastating revelations like the ones that had scarred my past. That evening, he vetoed my suggestion of ordering takeout, insisting on cooking. He made noodles, simple but flavorful, accompanied by 2 surprisingly delicious side dishes. Wasn't haute cuisine, but as we ate together in comfortable silence at my small dining table, an unfamiliar warmth settled over me. For a fleeting, dangerous moment it felt domestic, like we were a young couple sharing a quiet meal in our own little haven. It was a feeling I'd secretly craved since childhood. My own upbringing had been starkly different. Father perpetually away chasing deals. Mother, lost in a whirlwind of social engagements. The housekeeper cooked efficiently and well, but never joined me at the table. Meals were solitary mechanical acts of refueling, devoid of the warmth of shared company I saw in other families. After father's death, mother, freed from even the pretense of familial obligation, drifted further away, forgetting my existence almost entirely. A bitter chuckle escaped me. Leo looked up, puzzled. "It's good," I said quickly, pushing the memories away. "Really delicious." Just a simple compliment, but his face lit up with a beam of pure, unadulterated pleasure. "See," my cynical inner voice supplied. Young people were so easily pleased. I assumed dinner would segue into our usual nocturnal activities. Instead, Leo surprised me again. He unearthed my rarely used workout clothes from the back of the closet and dug out a pair of dusty sneakers. Despite my protests, his persuasive charm won out, and soon we were heading downstairs, towards the park outside the complex. "See? Fresh air," he enthused, tugging me along. "You spend all day in recycled office air or stuffy photo studios. It's bad for you. Gives you aircon sickness." He grinned, then started jogging backwards. "But you can't catch me, even with me going backwards." He was still boasting about the boundless energy of youth when I abruptly spun around and started jogging backwards myself, albeit awkwardly. "Please," I retorted breathlessly. "When I was tearing up the track championships in high school, you weren't even a twinkle in your father's eye." Okay, you win. You're the champ," he conceded, slowing to match my pace, his eyes full of indulgent amusement. "Ha! Drop the sister act the moment we're outside, do you? Getting bold, aren't? Oof." A solid impact from behind. I stumbled, realizing I'd backed right into someone. Leo's arm shot out, steadying me, but in the confusion, my heel came down squarely on the stranger's foot. "Are you okay? Did you twist your ankle?" Leo ignored the person I'd collided with, immediately fussing over me. I'm fine. Mortified, I turned to apologize. But the stranger spoke first, his voice a low, resonant baritone that sent an icy shock through my system. "Sophia. Well, payback's a bitch, isn't it? Seems you finally got your revenge, even after all these years." My breath hitched. I knew that voice. I would know it anywhere. Marcus Thorne. My one and only ex-boyfriend. The ghost I thought I'd exorcised. Marcus. My history with him was far more complex, far more damaging, than the casual game I played with Leo. He'd entered my life during a particularly bleak period. Reeling from the devastating betrayal of my first love, Ethan, I'd then been blindsided by sabotage, a coveted job offer mysteriously rescinded. Worse, nearly every other company in the industry suddenly seemed closed off to me. Desperate, I'd taken on degrading part-time modeling gigs just to survive. That's when Marcus appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. Smooth, wealthy, connected. He'd offered me a lifeline, an introduction to a promising company called Radiance. Grateful, I'd taken him out for dinner the day I received my first paycheck. The evening ended inevitably back at his place. When he tried to act nonchalant afterwards, I kissed him, signaling my understanding of the transaction. He hadn't feigned surprise for long. Later, as I dressed silently, planning a clean escape, he'd clasped a delicate, expensive necklace around my neck. "Stay with me, Sophia," he'd murmured, his voice proprietary. "I'll give you everything you desire." My lip had curled then. He couldn't possibly know what I desired when I barely knew myself. I threw myself into work at Radiance, climbing the ladder rapidly. Then came the princess, Jessica, utterly inexperienced, dripping in designer labels, and instantly installed as my direct supervisor. The rumor mill buzzed. She was the big boss's future daughter-in-law. And I knew with chilling certainty that the big boss, the owner of Radiance, was Marcus Thorne's father. The subtle digs, the impossible deadlines, the stolen credit. Jessica made my life a living hell. All while Marcus watched from the sidelines. When I finally handed in my resignation, he'd torn over to my apartment, furious. "Just be patient, Sophia. It's just temporary, a formality," he'd insisted, pacing my tiny living room. "My father doesn't approve of us, not yet. He just wants to test you, roughen you up a bit. It's nothing personal. Here." He tossed a platinum supplementary credit card onto my coffee table. "Go buy yourself something nice. Cheer up." "No, thank you, Marcus," I'd replied, my voice dangerously calm. "I'm done wearing shoes your fiancé picked out for me to trip over." The barb hit home. I saw the flicker of acknowledgement in his eyes. He knew exactly what Jessica had been doing, and he'd allowed it. His pride stung, the mask of civility dropped. "Sophia, don't push me," he'd snarled, his voice low and threatening. "Don't refuse the easy way only to be forced down the hard path. Without me, you're nothing in this city." "You're wrong, Marcus," I'd shot back, standing tall despite the tremor inside. "Even walking barefoot, I can still walk tall enough to step on your precious ego." That very night I'd contacted Verve. The next day I started my new job. I'd never planned on relying solely on Marcus. I'd already secured my escape route. Ethan's deceit had taught me harsh lessons, Marcus's contempt had forged them into armor. For adults navigating the real world, love and affection were dangerous distractions. Survival depended on tangible skills, strategic planning, and unwavering self-reliance. They say a good ex is like a dead ex. Marcus, unfortunately, refused to stay buried. "Sophia, fancy meeting you here," he drawled now, his eyes sweeping over me, then lingering on Leo with undisguised disdain. "I'm settling in the city permanently, actually. We really should catch up sometime." "No need. I'm busy," I replied curtly, turning away. "Oh, I don't mind waiting," he purred, stepping closer. "You know me. When I want something, I usually get it." He smirked, his gaze flicking back to Leo. "Well, Sophia, looks like you've certainly landed on your feet since Radiance. Even acquired a boy toy." I bristled, the familiar wave of disgust washing over me. "He needs youth and energy to keep up with me," Leo interjected smoothly, stepping slightly in front of me, his arm protectively around my waist. His tone was light, but his eyes held a warning. "Wouldn't want me getting bored, would we, darling?" Marcus's smile tightened. "Kept man talks tough, doesn't he?" "Marcus, watch your mouth." I snapped, my patience gone. "We broke up. Who I spend my time with now is absolutely none of your business." "Exactly," Leo added, his voice dangerously soft, a smile playing on his lips that didn't reach his eyes that held a glint of something sharp, something predatory I hadn't seen before. Garbage really shouldn't stink up the place after it's been thrown out. The air crackled with sudden raw tension. Marcus looked taken aback, then furious. "Let's go, Leo. I'm tired," I said quickly, pulling him away before things escalated. He resisted for a moment, his body rigid, but finally allowed me to lead him back towards the apartment building. The second the door closed behind us, the storm broke. "Who the hell was that?" Leo demanded, his voice tight with suppressed anger. "Your ex. It doesn't concern you. Don't ask so many questions." Tearing open old wounds was the last thing I wanted. "He spoke to you like that. Why didn't you slap him?" Or are you still hung up on him? His voice rose, laced with jealousy. He said he's moving here permanently. Are you planning on seeing him again? Sophia, answer me. Do you still have feelings for that asshole? He was practically shouting now, his usual playful demeanor replaced by raw possessiveness. He even used my name, dropping the affectionate Sophia he usually used. Leo, stop being ridiculous, I snapped, exhausted and unwilling to engage. I'm tired. We can talk tomorrow. I turned towards the bathroom, needing space. Before I could close the door, he burst in, backing me against the cool tile. His strength was overwhelming. I couldn't fight him off. His eyes burned into mine. Tell me, he growled, his voice low and intense, pinning my wrists. Do you love me? Say it. Do you love me? This wasn't the playful Leo the first knew. This was someone else entirely. A man consumed by a dark primal jealousy. The playful boy was gone, replaced by someone fierce and demanding. This wasn't seduction, it was staking a claim. A forceful assertion of ownership that left me shaken and strangely aroused. Later, much later, he carried my limp body to the shower and washed me gently, his anger spent, replaced by a brooding tenderness that was almost more unnerving. A few days later, attempting to relax at home on a rare day off, my phone rang. Caller ID, mother. I let it ring twice before answering, bracing myself. Sophia? Happy birthday. Her voice, thin and reedy, trickled through the phone like weak tea. I'm working, I lied, keeping my tone clipped. Can't talk now. So cold, she sighed dramatically. Don't you know the saying? A child's birthday is the day a mother suffered most. Not even a thank you for bringing you into this world. A bitter laugh escaped me. Thank you? For what? The dam of resentment I usually kept firmly in place cracked. For cheating on Dad with his money while he worked himself sick? For forcing him to sign divorce papers when he was already breaking down? Or maybe for helping your spineless lover drive him into crippling debt and ultimately to his death. The painful images flooded back. My father's haunted eyes, my mother's casual cruelty, the crushing weight of loss. My hand tightened on the phone until my knuckles turned white. He died because of you, I hissed, the words tasting like ash. If I had a choice, I would choose never to have been born at all. My mother was a creature of profound, unwavering selfishness, beautiful on the outside, hollow within. Her insatiable desires for admiration, for money, for fleeting love, had driven her to betray and destroy. After my father's death, she'd squandered his remaining assets, flitting between lovers, utterly oblivious to the daughter she'd left adrift. I despised her, pitted my father, and lived in constant fear of repeating their toxic patterns. Ethan's betrayal, Marcus's manipulation. They had only reinforced my cynicism. Love was a dangerous illusion. Which was why Leo in theory was perfect. No messy emotions, just physical solace. He was the perfect antidote. Satisfying, uncomplicated. No love required. Sophia, who else even remembers your birthday besides me? My mother whined, shifting seamlessly from guilt trip to victimhood. And this is how you speak to me? You ungrateful child. You viper. The venom escalated quickly into a torrent of ugly names. Whatever names you call me, I retorted, a strange sense of calm descending as her hysteria peaked. Remember you made me. There was a satisfying click as I ended the call, cutting off her shriek mid-word. A wave of grim satisfaction washed over me. Only then did I realize Leo was standing silently in the doorway, his expression unreadable. How long had he been there? How much had he heard? I found I didn't have the energy to ask or even to care. Hey, he said softly, his usual buoyancy returning. Let me take you out. Get your mind off things. His eyes were bright, eager. Somehow he coaxed me out of the apartment. He led me to a bustling night market across town. A vibrant chaos of food stalls, game booths, and chattering crowds. He bought skewers of grilled squid, insisted I try a bizarrely colored fruit drink, and pulled me through the throng, his hand warm and firm in mine. Gradually, the oppressive weight of my mother's call began to lift, replaced by the infectious energy of the street. We passed a shooting gallery, its gaudy lights flashing. My eyes caught on a prize perched high on a shelf. A large, slightly faded stuffed rabbit. An old-fashioned design. A pang of nostalgia hit me. My father had given me a smaller, similar one years ago, before everything fell apart. You want that one, Sophia? Leo followed my gaze, instantly honing in on the object of my interest. He flagged down the stall owner. "Ah, the rabbit." The owner grinned, showing tobacco-stained teeth. "Special prize, that one. Not for sale, only for winning. See the little pouch around its neck? $1,000 cash. Inside." He gestured towards the rifle rack. "But here's the catch. Gotta hit 100 balloons with 100 bullets. And the shot's gotta make a specific shape on the backboard. Tough rules. 100 bullets alone cost $100. Add the near-impossible accuracy requirement in the shape? A blatant tourist trap, designed to fleece hopefuls. It's a rip-off, Leo. Forget it, let's go," I said, tugging his arm. But he ignored me, slapping a $100 bill onto the counter and picking up one of the air rifles. He met my eyes, his gaze suddenly intense. "If you want it, it's worth it." He raised the rifle, his stance changing, becoming focused, purposeful. Pop, pop, pop. He fired rapidly, almost without aiming, yet each shot found its mark. A crowd started to gather, drawn by the relentless accuracy. Cell phones emerged, recording the unexpected display of skill. Pop, pop, pop. He didn't miss. Not once. Soon, all 100 balloons were deflated shreds. A murmur of appreciation went through the onlookers. I had to admit, seeing him like this, focused, deadly serious, was surprisingly attractive. "Damn, kid. You did it," the stall owner exclaimed, looking slightly stunned. 100 for 100. But, look. He pointed at the backboard riddled with holes. "It's just random holes, lines here and there. Don't make no shape. Rules are rules." His shifty eyes betrayed his attempt to wriggle out of awarding the prize. Murmurs of disapproval rose from the crowd. "Tell you what," the vendor offered quickly, sensing the mood turning against him. "Take the rabbit, leave the cash. Fair trade, right? You still win." Leo didn't argue. He simply vaulted over the counter, ignoring the vendor's yelp of protest. "Hey, what ya doin'? Assault is illegal." He walked to the target board. With a deliberate movement, he rotated it slightly. At that exact moment, the decorative string lights bordering the entire food street flickered on, bathing the area in a warm glow. The pattern made by the bullet holes was suddenly clear. A perfect outline of a birthday cake, complete with candles. The newly lit bulbs on the stalls directly behind the candles provided the flames. "How's this shape?" Leo asked quietly, turning back to the stunned vendor. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. But Leo wasn't looking at them. His eyes were fixed on mine. "Happy birthday, Sophia," he murmured, his voice barely audible above the din. Later, back in the quiet sanctuary of my apartment, curled up on the sofa with the slightly musty prize rabbit, I asked him how he knew. "Why shouldn't I know your birthday, Sophia?" he countered, his gaze searching mine, making me strangely flustered. "'Cause you're not my boyfriend," I thought. "Because this is just an arrangement, a transaction between two lonely people." The words caught in my throat as his lips found mine, effectively silencing any further questions. Much later, lying tangled in the sheets, the earlier intensity replaced by a comfortable languor, my curiosity resurfaced. "Leo," I murmured drowsily, "where did you learn to shoot like that? You were incredible." He was quiet for a moment, tracing patterns on my bare shoulder. "America," he said finally, his voice low. "Got my permit there." He hesitated, then continued, the words coming out slowly, reluctantly. "Grew up rough, part of what you don't see in movies. We lived in a bad neighborhood. Break-in one night. When I was a kid, they took everything that mattered. Then just vanished." He paused, his jaw tight. "Later, when I was old enough, first thing I did when I turned 18 legally? Learned to shoot." Fragments of a past I knew nothing about, delivered with stark simplicity. It shattered the naive student image I still clung to, replacing it with something harder, more complex. "If you ever found the person, the robber?" I asked, the question slipping out before I could stop it, oddly detached from his American history. "Would you use the gun?" He shifted, propping himself up on an elbow to look down at me, his eyes unreadable in the dim light. "What would you do, Sophia?" he countered softly. I met his gaze, a cold certainty hardening within me. "If I could get revenge," I said slowly, deliberately, "I would make sure it was absolute. I'd lure them in, make them think they were safe, then eliminate the threat. Logically. Permanently." A flicker of surprise crossed his face, quickly replaced by something that looked unsettlingly like understanding. Or perhaps satisfaction. Sophia, he murmured, leaning down to kiss me again, his lips lingering. I like your answer. A new disquieting feeling stirred within me. Not love, definitely not love. But something more potent, more complex than simple physical attraction. Proximity? Shared experiences? Whatever it was, it felt dangerous, blurring the lines I'd so carefully drawn. Time to apply the brakes, I told myself firmly. Hard. Somehow 2 more months slipped by. Leo remained firmly entrenched in my apartment, in my life. He never left. I never found the resolve to make him. My previously erratic breakfast habits were replaced by balanced meals. My fridge, once a wasteland of forgotten takeout and wilting vegetables, was now consistently stocked. Strange new objects appeared: heat packs, a fancy foot-soaking tub he insisted I use after long days, and heels. If it weren't for his undiminished, ferocious energy in bed, I might have suspected I was living with a middle-aged health guru. It wasn't until I caught myself subconsciously ordering bone broth at a work dinner that I realized how profoundly my habits had shifted. All because of Leo. Sophia, you need to eat well, sleep well. He'd lecture gently while massaging my tense shoulders. Otherwise, how will you stay with me till we're old and gray? There was always that undercurrent, that possessive assumption of a future I'd never agreed to. I'm going to be with you for a long, long time, he'd murmur against my hair. You have to take care of yourself. For me. Was it my imagination, or was he changing? After a grueling late night at the office, I'd find him waiting downstairs unasked. Complain about a difficult project, and the next day, inexplicably, it would be scaled back or reassigned. Packing for a business trip, he'd distract me, delay me, murmuring things like, "Don't pack so thoroughly, maybe you won't have to go." And then invariably, the trip would be cancelled at the last minute due to some unforeseen circumstance. This pattern of convenient coincidences, coupled with the lingering questions about his past, the flawless English, the shooting skills, the vague story about America, created a persistent, low-level hum of anxiety beneath the surface of our domestic routine. Yet I never pushed. What right did I have? It wasn't a relationship built on trust or shared futures. It was a game mutually beneficial. Asking too many questions felt like breaking the rules. As summer arrived, Leo became determined to drag me out of my routine. We went cycling along the river, hiked in the nearby hills, tried rock climbing disastrously on my part, even participated in a bizarrely complex live-action role-playing mystery game. My weekends, previously reserved for catching up on work or indulging in solitary pampering, were now entirely commandeered by his youthful energy. Everywhere we went, people naturally assumed we were a couple. See, Sophia? Leo would beam proudly whenever someone referred to me as his girlfriend. The public knows. We're perfect together. I just smile vaguely, too weary or perhaps too complacent to correct them. For fleeting, dangerous moments surrounded by sunshine and Leo's infectious enthusiasm, it almost felt real. But reality always intruded, usually during our most intimate moments. Have you fallen in love with me yet, Sophia? He'd whisper against my skin, his voice thick with emotion. I deflect with a joke or, more effectively, silence him with a kiss. He was still fundamentally a kid in matters of the heart, lacking the nuanced, unspoken understanding that develops between adults who have weathered real storms. One evening, leaving work early for once, I found him waiting downstairs, leaning casually against my car. He'd recently taken over driving duties as well. What's next, Leo? I teased as I slid into the passenger seat. Filling in for me at editorial meetings? Actually, he said, pulling smoothly into traffic, I hate you working so much. But, damn, you look incredible when you're focused and commanding. He glanced at me, a familiar heat in his eyes. I noticed again how often he used you now, the more equalizing pronoun, instead of the slightly deferential Sophia, or playful endearments. Watch it, kiddo. I swatted his arm playfully. Getting too big for your boots? Forgetting who's boss. Okay, boss. He grinned, his tone placating but his eyes sparkling with mischief. Beautiful, brilliant boss, Sophia. Can I ask you something serious? Depends. When we're out, in public, can I just call you Sophia? Not, all the time. In your dreams, I retorted instantly without needing to think. The subtle power dynamic, the reminder of our arrangement's origins, was a line I wasn't ready to erase. Seriously though, I shifted gears, remembering his prolonged suspension. What did you do at school? It's not like you decked the dean. Why aren't they letting you back? It's been almost 3 months. Finals must be coming up soon. Are you trying to get rid of me? He feigned a wounded look, stealing a quick kiss at a red light. Okay, sorry. Don't be mad, gorgeous boss. I'm serious, Leo. How long are you suspended for? Did you get expelled? He just focused on driving, ignoring my questions, a sudden curtain falling over his usual openness. Just as my frustration began to simmer into real anger, he pulled the car over, parking abruptly. I followed his gaze to the brightly lit sign. Elite Tennis Academy. I booked a court, he said, turning off the engine. Your racket and gear are in the trunk. He met my eyes and the playful warmth was gone, replaced by an unnerving depth, a seriousness that made my breath catch. Play a match with me, Sophia. One match. And I promise, you'll get the answers you want. A strange compulsion, a sense of inevitability washed over me. Without a word, I got out of the car. Inside the airy, echoing facility, I saw them almost immediately, holding court near the entrance to the main courts. Marcus Thorne. And beside him, clinging possessively to his arm, Jessica. Sophia Reyes. Well, look what the cat dragged in. Jessica greeted me, her voice dripping with saccharine malice. Marcus merely nodded curtly. His eyes narrowed as they took in Leo beside me. Still slumming it, I see, Jessica continued, her gaze flicking dismissively over Leo. How's life after I graciously let you go from Radiance? Feel like getting your ass handed to you on the court? Though I doubt you can afford the membership here. She conveniently forgot I had resigned. Oh, she added, widening her eyes in mock surprise. Changed your type, have you? Moved on from trying to snag bosses and started collecting pretty little pets. Before I could respond, Leo stepped forward, draping a casual arm around my shoulders. Sophia, darling, he said, his voice deceptively light. Is this the intellectually challenged supervisor you mentioned? The one who got the job through connections? I confirmed tersely, unwilling to rehash the past. Who are you calling challenged? Jessica shrieked, her perfectly applied makeup doing little to hide the flush of fury rising on her neck. My name is Jessica Song, not challenged. Potato, Leo waved a dismissive hand. When you're operating on a completely different level, the specific label hardly matters, does it? Jessica looked utterly flabbergasted. Used to fawning admirers and intimidated subordinates, she clearly had no idea how to handle being so blatantly insulted, especially by someone so young and attractive. You again. Marcus finally spoke, stepping forward, his expression thunderous. He recognized Leo from the parking counter. Didn't learn your lesson last time, punk? Looking for another beatdown. Last time. Leo feigned confusion. Oh, you mean down by the river? When you were boasting about settling here permanently. How's that working out for you? The implied knowledge in his tone was unmistakable. Jessica's head snapped between Marcus and me, her eyes narrowing with suspicion and dawning jealousy. Leo, we came to play tennis, I intervened quickly, wanting to avoid another public scene. Let's not waste time on them. Exactly, Marcus snapped, blocking our path, his pride clearly wounded. This is a tennis club. Let's settle this properly. Doubles. You. And your boy toy against me and my fiancé. You lose. His eyes locked onto Leo with venomous intensity. You apologize. To Jessica. Leo just laughed. A short, sharp sound devoid of humor. It was all the answer Marcus needed. The challenge was accepted. What followed was less a tennis match and more a systematic dismantling. I hadn't played seriously in years, but the muscle memory, fueled by adrenaline and resentment, kicked in. I was playing like my college champion self again. And Leo was phenomenal. Effortlessly powerful, strategically brilliant, anticipating every move Marcus made. He moved like a predator, calm and focused, unleashing winners with devastating precision. Jessica, completely outclassed, stumbled and missed repeatedly, growing increasingly flustered. Marcus's frustration mounted with every lost point, his shots becoming wilder, his face contorting with impotent rage. We were crushing them. The sheer, unadulterated satisfaction was intoxicating. Finally, trailing badly and humiliated beyond measure, Marcus snapped. As Leo served another untouchable ace, Marcus slammed his racket onto the court. You know. Sophia, he spat, his voice laced with pure malice, turning his glare on me. You really haven't grown at all, Still hung up on that married piece of trash, Ethan Chun. The name hit me like a physical blow, stealing the air from my lungs. But I gotta hand it to you, Marcus continued, his lip curling in a sneer as he looked from me to Leo. You found yourself an excellent replica. Almost uncanny, the resemblance. Tell me, he leaned forward. Conspiratorially, his voice dropping to a poisonous whisper loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Does this one screw you as hard as his deadbeat older brother did before he wrapped his car around a tree? Ethan Chun. My first love. My deepest wound. My ghost. He'd been a visiting lecturer, older, impossibly charismatic. I'd fallen hard, fast, and completely. He'd been my world, the first person who seemed to truly see me. I'd given him everything naively, believing his vague promises, only to have his wife show up one day, spitting insults and waving a check for $5,000. Hush money, she'd called it. Payment for services rendered. I never knew he was married. Never suspected. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I'd ever experienced. He was a liar, a fraud. I'd sworn. Then, amidst the wreckage of my heart, that I would become stronger, more successful, powerful enough to make him regret ever crossing me. But before my revenge could even begin to take shape, he was dead. A fiery car crash. Poetic justice, perhaps, but it left the burning rage inside me with no outlet, festering for years. Sleeping with him. I didn't regret the physical act itself, but the inability to confront him, to make him pay, that haunted me. Marcus's words, cruel and calculated, landed like shrapnel, but the effect on Leo was explosive. With a guttural roar, he launched himself towards Marcus, abandoning his racket, his eyes blazing with a terrifying fury. If the club staff and other players hadn't reacted instantly, grabbing him, holding him back, there would have been blood. But in that moment, watching Leo's unrestrained violence, understanding dawned with sickening clarity. Brother. The resemblance. The intensity. The shared name hinted at by Marcus. Ethan Chun. Panic seized me, cold and absolute. While the commotion still swirled around restraining Leo, I turned and fled. Didn't say a word, didn't look back. Just ran. Escaping the toxic fallout, escaping the horrifying truth that had just detonated in my life. Sophia, my inner voice whispered contemptuously as I sprinted towards the exit. You absolute coward. Back in the sterile silence of my apartment, I moved like an automaton. I pulled Leo's suitcase from the closet, systematically, emptying his drawers, folding his clothes, gathering his toiletries. I went to the small safe where I kept emergency cash, pulling out bundle after bundle, several $1,000s. I laid the crisp bills neatly on top of his packed clothes. Then I opened my banking app, my fingers trembling slightly as I typed in a substantial, round number of final severance. I hit transfer. That should be enough. More than enough. We were enough. Over. Done. Wow, Sophia. I jumped, startled. Leo stood in the bedroom doorway, his breathing still slightly ragged, his eyes fixed on the open suitcase, on the stacks of cash. The fury was gone, replaced by a chillingly calm, mocking amusement. Didn't realize I was worth so much, he continued, his voice dangerously soft. Or is it because I look like him that you raised the price? He stepped further into the room. You never told me about him, you know? About Ethan. Are we really that similar? He reached out, gripping my arm, his fingers digging painfully into my flesh. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the inferno blazing in his eyes. Tell me, he demanded, his voice dropping to a low growl. Do you still love him? He looked utterly unlike the boy I thought I knew. The softness was gone, replaced by a raw, wounded anger. He looked like Ethan. I couldn't speak, couldn't explain. I just tried to pull away, desperate to escape his proximity, the weight of his gaze, the unbearable truth hanging between us. Oh no, Sophia, he whispered, easily overpowering my struggles. You're not running away this time. He shoved me backwards onto the bed, his weight pinning me down. One hand tangled roughly in my hair, angling my head away. The other began tearing at our clothes with frantic, angry movements. Don't look at my face, he commanded harshly when my eyes instinctively sought his. This wasn't like the possessive encounter in the bathroom. This was different. This was brutal, violent, almost degrading. He was punishing me deliberately. My silence, my flight, my presumed lingering affection for his dead brother, it had shattered his pride, unleashing a tormented jealousy that consumed him utterly. This wasn't passion. It was exorcism through violation. Later, much later, drifting in the bruised and exhausted space between wakefulness and sleep, I vaguely registered him dressing, zipping the suitcase. Heard the soft click of the apartment door closing behind him. He hadn't taken the money. Not the cash, not the transfer. Silence descended. For several days the apartment felt unnaturally quiet, empty. He didn't call. Didn't text. Maybe the confrontation, the raw ugliness of it all, had finally snapped him out of whatever delusion he'd been under. Maybe he'd finally seen the futility, the toxicity of whatever game he thought he was playing. Good. This was the necessary end. Unexpectedly brutal, yes, but final. It was just a game, after all, albeit one that had spun wildly, dangerously out of control. I methodically purged the apartment of his remaining presence, a forgotten t-shirt, a half-used bottle of cologne, the lingering scent of him on my sheets. I scrubbed, I cleaned, I worked. Life went on. Just as I began to believe it was truly over, that the Leo chapter was closed, he reappeared. On my doorstep. Looking smaller. Subdued. Sophia. He stood there, shifting his weight, looking like the lost student I'd first encountered. My exams are over. School's out for the summer. He hesitated, then met my eyes, his own filled with a pleading vulnerability. Sophia. I was wrong. Last time. I was an asshole. Are you still angry with me? He looked down at his feet. Was he really that much better than me? Or am I just not enough? The sight of him, this tall, usually confident young man, looking so utterly dejected, his voice laced with insecurity, it disarmed me completely. The stray dog effect was back in full force. A wave of unexpected pity washed over me. No, I heard myself say, the words soft despite my resolve. It's not that. I barely remember him anymore. It was a lie, but it was the comfort he seemed to need. His head snapped up, a fragile hope dawning in his eyes. A relieved, almost dazzling smile broke across his face. He practically pushed past me into the apartment, relief radiating from him. Sophia, guess what? I found a great online job. Freelance stuff, pays really well. I can contribute now, maybe even take care of you eventually. He chattered nervously, already heading towards the kitchen as if he'd never left, his back radiating the eager energy of a puppy just welcomed home. Damn it. What could I say? Despite the strength, the flashes of darkness, the unnerving intensity, perhaps at his core he was still just a kid. A complicated, damaged kid. My resolve once again proved weaker than my unwilling compassion. The next 2 months passed in a strange, deceptive calm. It felt like Leo and I were playing house, settling into a rhythm that mimicked a real relationship. I worked, he stayed home. Supposedly busy with his mysterious online job, but always had dinner ready when I returned. He drove me to and from the office, fussed over my health, shielded me from household chores. Colleagues at the airport, witnessing him meet my flight with roses and a newly released designer necklace, commented with open envy on my devoted toy boy. He planned elaborate dates, cooked all my favorite dishes, showered me with small, thoughtful gifts, culminating in 28 individually wrapped presents for my lunar calendar birthday. A gesture of overwhelming, almost suffocating attention. His kisses, his laughter, his unwavering tenderness. They became the background music of my life. And always, in the quiet moments during the hazy aftermath of passion, came the soft, persistent question. Have you fallen in love with me yet, Sophia? I never answered directly. Love? Based on my life experience, love was a catastrophe waiting to happen. My father destroyed by it. My mother chasing it. Futilely ending up broken and alone. Ethan betraying it for convenience. Marcus incapable of it, viewing it only as a tool for manipulation. Love led to ruin. Leo, bless his naive heart, didn't understand the stakes. Some lessons, painful lessons you simply had to learn firsthand. Meanwhile, things at Verve were heating up. Head office announced a major expansion, involving significant acquisitions. The office buzzed with rumors during endless preparatory meetings. I heard it's not a merger with Radiance, it's a full buyout. Someone whispered during a coffee break. Seriously? Radiance is huge. That must cost a fortune. And that's not all. Rumor has it the Song conglomerate is next, major debt issues apparently. Head office is snapping up their domestic assets too. My God. What kind of powerhouse company did we join? Radiance. The Song family. Marcus and Jessica. A chill snaked down my spine. The whispers painted a picture of utter devastation for my former tormentors. To orchestrate the downfall of two such major players required immense power and ruthless precision. Our CEO, whom I'd met briefly, seemed capable but hardly like a corporate predator of that magnitude. What does it matter to you? I told myself sternly. Focus on your work, Sophia. Except suddenly it did matter. My boss called me in. An uncharacteristically warm smile on her face. She slid a file across the desk. Congratulations, Sophia. Effective immediately, you're being promoted and transferred to the head office acquisition team. Your primary responsibility will be overseeing the integration of the newly acquired entities. Me? Parachuted into head office? Overseeing the dismantling of Marcus and Jessica's empires? It felt like something out of a revenge fantasy novel, too perfect, too surreal to be true. Wow, Sophia. Never knew you had connections upstairs, my boss exclaimed, her tone a mixture of admiration and barely concealed envy. Playing your cards close to your chest, weren't you? I murmured something non-committal. My own skills were sharp, yes, but this promotion felt disproportionate. Still, opportunity knocked. Who was I to question it? Driving home that evening, a strange sense of exhilaration mixed with unease filled me. I decided to call Leo, share the bizarre news. No answer. Probably busy with his job, I figured, letting it go. He spent hours glued to his laptop, the specifics of which remained a mystery I deliberately didn't probe. Sticking to the game's boundaries, maintaining that sliver of distance felt crucial. As I turned into the entrance of my apartment complex, a figure lunged out from the shadows directly into my path. I slammed on the brakes, tires squealing, but the impact was unavoidable. A dull thud. My heart hammered against my ribs as I scrambled out of the car. The man was sprawled on the pavement. As I knelt beside him, checking for injuries, I recognized the face, contorted in pain and rage. Marcus, why didn't you just hit me harder? He rasped, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Kill me. God knows I don't want to live anymore anyway. Marcus, are you insane? I snapped, pulling out my phone to call emergency services. If you want to end it, find somewhere else. Don't drag me into your mess. His desperation smelled like financial ruin, the Radiance acquisition, no doubt. Heh, he coughed, a broken sound. My mess? My mess? Sophia, you ruthless bitch. You finally did it, didn't you? Had your revenge. What are you talking about? I frowned, keeping my voice level as I relayed our location to the dispatcher. Don't play dumb, he snarled, struggling to sit up, clutching his bleeding arm. You think stepping on my foot that day was an accident? You didn't just step on my foot, you shattered my legs. My family's legs. I helped you when you were nothing. Gave you a chance. And this is how you repay me. You venomous snake. You didn't help me, Marcus, I retorted coldly, remembering the truth. You saw an opportunity. Ethan's wife, your cousin, tipped you off about my situation after Ethan. After. I saw photos of you with her in his albums later. You preyed on my vulnerability. Okay, fine. So I took advantage. So what? He spat, his eyes wild with despair. At least there was something. One night. Doesn't that count for anything? You find some rich kid, some powerful young master, and suddenly old debts mean nothing? He pulls a few strings, crashes the market, buys up everything. He trailed off, shaking his head in disbelief. I bet his daddy, the real boss behind your company, would give you a medal if he knew his precious son orchestrated a hostile takeover of two major corporations just to impress you. His voice dripped with bitter irony. All because you cried on his shoulder about your nasty ex. He glared at me, his eyes filled with a toxic mixture of hatred and defeat. You manipulative whore. Sleeping your way to the top. First the older brother, Ethan Chun, slept him right into his grave. Now the younger one, Leo Vance. Don't you ever get tired of the same damn family? Leo Vance. The name hit me with the force of a physical blow. Vance. Chin. Brothers. Of course. The resemblance wasn't just uncanny, it was genetic. My mind raced, connecting the dots. Leo's intensity, his shooting skills, his unexplained knowledge, the sudden reversal of my professional misfortunes, the convenient downfall of my enemies. My cousin told me everything. Marcus ranted on, oblivious to my internal implosion. Said the kid, Leo, practically worshipped his older brother. When he found out Ethan died partly because of you, this gold-digging student who broke his heart, He flew straight back from the States swearing revenge. He planned it all. Getting close to you, playing the innocent student. Heard you fell for it hook, line, and sinker, Marcus sneered. Couldn't wait to jump into bed with that face, could you? Just like with Ethan. Pathetic. You should know. Though, his voice turned sly. His real fiancée back in the US? She's genuine high society. Makes my cousin look like a kitten. She won't let you keep him for long. He staggered to his feet as the approaching wail of sirens grew louder. Sophia, he spat, his final words laced with venom. You're rotten to the core. Just like your whore mother. The ambulance pulled up. I turned away from Marcus's crumpled figure, got back into my car and drove away, leaving him to the paramedics. My hands were steady on the wheel, but inside, a devastating earthquake was tearing through the foundations of my carefully constructed world. I drove aimlessly for a while, the windows down, letting the cool night air whip through the car, trying to clear the wreckage in my head. The car's Bluetooth, automatically connected, playing a soft, melancholic indie song Leo had recently added to my playlist. Something about misplaced affection and deceptive appearances. I am a fool, I thought, a humorless laugh bubbling up. The ultimate fool. Played from the beginning. Used. Manipulated. All my cynicism, all my carefully guarded defenses. Utterly useless against a young man armed with a familiar face and a hidden agenda. But strangely, beneath the shock and humiliation, there wasn't grief. There was clarity. A cold, hard clarity. The game was over. The masks were off. I drove back towards my apartment. Time for the final scene. I expected the apartment to be empty, that Leo, having delivered his final blow through Marcus, would have vanished. I fumbled for my keys, surprised to find the door unlocked. It swung open from the inside. Leo stood there, his expression unreadable, his hand still on the doorknob. He was still here. Don't leave anything behind, I said curtly, walking past him without meeting his eyes, heading straight for the bedroom. And please close the door securely on your way out. Sophia. Wait. Let me explain. He caught my arm, his touch sending an unwanted jolt through me. No need, I replied tonelessly, shrugging him off. Just don't take anything that isn't yours. And what if I want something that is? His voice was low and tense. He spun me around, forcing me to face him, to look into those eyes that now seemed entirely alien, stripped of their familiar warmth. For the first time I felt I was truly seeing him, not the ghost of his brother. Okay, he began, his voice strained. I admit my intentions weren't pure. At first. He didn't try to deny it, just started talking, the words tumbling out in a rush, filling in the missing pieces of the story he'd only hinted at before. I'm not like Ethan. I was the other son. The secret one. Illegitimate. Hidden away overseas my whole childhood. After my mother died. Ethan was the only one who cared, the only one who visited. He saved my life once, pulled me out of a fire in our neighborhood. His voice cracked slightly. He told me to study hard, that education was the only way out, the only way to change my future. I nodded mutely. That sounded exactly like the idealistic Ethan I remembered. The teacher who had patiently chipped away at my own teenage rebellion, convincing me I was worth more than fights and skipped classes. I recalled scoffing at his optimism, telling him he didn't understand real struggle because he'd been born with a silver spoon. He'd responded by challenging me on the tennis court, practicing relentlessly, until he, a novice, finally beat me, the former youth champion. I won, Sophia, he'd said, breathless but triumphant. Now you keep your promise. Study hard. I expect an invitation to your graduation party. I kept my promise. And later, emboldened by acceptance letters and cheap champagne, I'd stolen a kiss from his unsuspecting lips. He had been, for a brief, shining moment, the only light in my bleak world. I worked so hard, Leo continued, his gaze distant, lost in memory. Skipped grades, got scholarships. All I wanted was to come back here. Be with him, finally be part of the family. His voice hardened. And then he was dead. The light in his eyes extinguished, replaced by a chilling darkness. They told me his wife, my father. They said he'd been ruined by a calculating, gold-digging student. Someone who used him, bled him dry, then tossed him aside for someone younger when he was no longer useful. He swallowed hard. They said she broke him. That his obsession with her led to the accident. After Ethan died, my father finally acknowledged me, started paying attention. I was desperate to prove myself, to erase the stain of my birth, maybe even make up for Ethan's perceived mistakes. He finally looked directly at me, his eyes filled with a complex mixture of old anger and new pain. So I dug into her life, found out everything I could about this woman who supposedly destroyed my brother. I fed information to his wife, ways to hurt her, to undermine her. I suggested tactics, offer her money to make her look cheap, sabotage her job prospects, even set her up with Marcus, knowing his reputation. His confession was flat, devoid of emotion now. I wanted her to pay. I wanted Ethan, wherever he was, to see her true colors. So, I stated quietly, the pieces clicking into place with devastating finality. The robber from your childhood story, the one who stole everything precious. That was me. Thinking back to his shooting gallery performance, his talk of learning to shoot for revenge, it all made a sickening kind of sense. Your aim was certainly excellent. Bullseye every time. The irony was bitter. I, who prided myself on my sophistication, my control, had been manipulated, played for years by a teenager bent on misguided vengeance. He couldn't have been more than 15 or 16 when he started pulling those strings. Not even legally an adult. Yes, he admitted, his head bowed slightly, a flicker of shame crossing his features. The things I did, I own them. He looked up again, his eyes pleading. But Sophia, knowing you, it changed everything. The stories didn't match the person I saw, the person I started to care about. I realized I'd been fed lies. Sophia, whatever you believe, whatever happened before, I swear to you I fell in love with you. For real. His gaze was earnest, desperate. Let me ask you something, Leo, I said, my voice devoid of inflection. Did you fall in love with me after you realized you were wrong about me? Or did you start digging for the truth, because you suspected you were falling in love? He stared at me, stunned into silence. How did you? Ethan called me, I said softly, the memory rising unbidden, sharp and clear after years buried deep. The day he died. He called me from the car. The secret I'd guarded for so long, the final piece of the puzzle finally surfaced. He said he couldn't forget me, that he was leaving his wife, that he wanted to marry me. I was still so angry, so hurt by his lies. I threw it back in his face. Prove it, I told him. Divorce her first. Let me hear you do it. So, my voice remained steady, detached. He put the phone on speaker. I turned away from Leo's shocked face, walked to the living room coffee table, and pulled open the bottom drawer. Inside lay an old, outdated mobile phone. He told her it was over, I continued, picking up the device. She went ballistic, screaming about how she knew he'd been seeing me, how he'd secretly bought property in my name overseas. And then she confessed. I held the phone out towards Leo. The brakes on the car they were driving? She'd had them tampered with earlier that day. You knew? All this time? Why didn't you? Leo stammered, his face pale. Why didn't I go to the police? Expose her? Use this recording? I looked down at the phone, then back at him, seeing my own reflection in his wide, disbelieving eyes. Because the day I walked away from Ethan, after discovering his lies, I made a promise to myself. Clean break, no looking back, nothing owed on either side. My voice was firm now, resolute. His life, his death, his money, his family drama. They had nothing to do with Sophia Reyes anymore. It was the one principle I'd clung to amidst all the chaos. Leo, I said, my voice softening slightly, tinged with a weary finality. I believe you don't hate me anymore. I even believe you think you feel something real for me. But you don't love me as much as you imagine. Because you never truly knew me. You never trusted me. I placed the old phone firmly in his hand. Take it, Leo. Evidence, closure, whatever you need. It's the only thing you're taking from this apartment. And certainly not my heart. Epilogue. So that's the story. Or my version of it anyway. Whether you think Sophia Reyes is a victim, a villain, or just a survivor is up to you. But since you've listened this far, I suppose I owe you the ending. Yes, I eventually walked down the aisle right around the age Ethan was when he left this world. But the man waiting for me at the altar? Definitely not named Vance or Thorne or Chun. He's a doctor. A psychologist, actually. With kind eyes and a smile that reaches them. We met, ironically enough, through my mother. About 6 months after Leo walked out of my life with that old phone, Mom had a complete breakdown. diagnosed with a complex form of dissociative anxiety, exacerbated by decades of guilt and narcissism. In her confused state, she often mistook me for her own long-dead older sister, calling me sister constantly. It was a bizarre, painful irony, but in those final months tending to the broken woman who had caused so much pain, we found a strange, fractured kind of peace. My husband was her therapist initially, then mine, then more. He asked me once gently about my past relationships, and surprisingly, the only one I admitted to, the only one that felt like it needed acknowledging, was Leo. I skipped the melodrama, the revenge plots, the hidden identities. I just summarized it as intense, complicated, ultimately bad timing. And that feels right. Some stories don't get neat Hollywood endings, just quiet resolutions. So here's to finding your own path, your own peace, whatever twists and turns it takes. May you find your own version of forever, hopefully with less collateral damage than mine. Be well.